Listen, man, I'm talking about nut, no squirrels. Hey, everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the Games Cage. Today, and only today, we are here to talk about Sonic's story going forward and some important facts we've learned and based on stuff we know what's going on, because now it seems like they want to connect this entire Sonic universe together, and I just want to sit down and talk about it for a little bit. But before we get into that, guys, I want us to obviously acknowledge this because I would look sociopathic if I didn't. We got to talk about this. So last night, we find out that, you know, co-creator of Sonic the Hedgehog, you know, Yuji Naka, has been arrested. What a turn of events for this guy, you know, like I just can't believe this shit. So let's read this right here. So, according to breaking Japanese news reports from FNN, TBS, and also relaying in English, Bloomberg journalist, Sonic the Hedgehog co-creator Yuji Naka has been arrested for insider trading involved in Square Enix and the Dragon Quest franchise. Naka is 57 years old. Details available in English are incredibly scarce at the moment, but Naka allegedly bought 10k shares and aiming for 2.8 million yen in January 2020 when he was at Square Enix employed directing the development of Bound Wonderworld, and then he learned the non-public information about Dragon Quest Tact being developed by Square Enix and aiming. Earlier today was reported that the two other former Square Enix employees, Taisuke Sasaki and Fumiaki Suzuki, have also been arrested for insider trading involving Tact. So, holy shit, that's fucking wild. Again, it has nothing to do with what today's video is, but I can't believe we went from Yuji Naka being like the co-creator of Sonic that everyone knew and mostly loved, to finding out how awful he was to work in the workplace, to him making Bound Wonderworld, and then, you know, to him doing that whole thing where he scratched off one of his, you know, co-employees on it, and then like to getting arrested. I just, insane timeline we live inside, so I have to acknowledge that. But guys, now let's get into some serious side. This is real business, okay? We are not hoeing around anymore. Let me grab the scene that I need for this. All right, so for those of you that don't know, right, obviously if you played Sonic Frontiers, you know that there's a lot more to the Sonic universe now than we last knew, or even like, you know, wasn't sure what was canon or not canon. And we have a lot of stuff to go through. So first, let's acknowledge this post by Katie, who's the social media manager for the Sonic team. So, hey everyone, you may have seen that we posted a position for an associate lore manager for Sonic the Hedgehog. What does that mean? In the past few years, we've been looking at the entire universe of Sonic and how things tie together canonically for the future. SEGA puts together a small team for us internally alongside the help of talented folks like Tyson Nash, Ian Flynn, and Spirit Sonic. Who are they again? Oh, they're one of the comic workers. Okay, cool. We're working on making the universe and stories more meaningfully connected. You have seen some examples of these changes in Tales 2, the Origins animations, and the Knuckles Frontiers prologue and the prologue comic, and even Frontiers itself. That said, we are not only involved with these decisions. With the help of Sonic team, we all work together to ensure everything is airtight. How does this position fit Sonic expectations? This position is not the lore master, but an important piece of the puzzle. This is more of a managerial role, helping our director of lore schedule and collaborate with other teams. You and I'm dying. I can't read. You, of course, will join creative discussions and brainstorms, but these decisions are not a one-person job. That said, it's an encouraging, exciting role. It's also worth noting that this is not an entire entry-level position. The team is looking for someone that already has some solid project management experience. So this is such a big deal for a few reasons. First of all, right, looking for a way to tie the Sonic universe together and how it ties canonically for the future. Now, we got to talk for this. We got to mention light. I would say this is light spoilers for Sonic Frontiers. It's nothing really big or game-changing. It's more that Sonic Frontiers obviously makes a lot of references to past events that we aren't even sure, you know, we weren't sure if they happened, because like, you know, when was the last time they ever mentioned them and all that stuff. So like, we know, for example, that like Eggman mentions Black Arms, right? And that's from Shadow the Hedgehog, right? He mentions the Babylonians, you know, and even Sonic acknowledges Jet, you know, which we haven't had in forever. We even know that Team Sonic Racing is canon because like, what's called? Eggman mentions the Dompa, like the land where that stuff happens. We know obviously SA1 and 2 are canon. Obviously they reference those all the time usually. We know that Lost World is canon because Sonic, you know, mentions the Deadly Six. We know Forces is canon because, you know, they have the big giant what's called egg robot in in Chaos Island, as well as, you know, mentioning Infinite. We know obviously Rush is canon because they mentioned Blaze in the game. Like, we have found out a lot of stuff is really finally canon. And when I say finally canon, it's stuff that, you know, like, we always sort of had to debate in our minds of like, hey, is this official, or am I like, you know, am I like trying to make this official? Because obviously the last 11 years were just games that felt like one-off stories that really didn't amount to much. Always, obviously, we know Sonic Colors is canon. They mentioned the Wisp in the game and Yakker and all that stuff. So this is really cool. Now, obviously, another big element of that is the comics, right? In Sonic Frontiers, we had a pretty big moment, which not a lot of people found, which is you find out that the comics are canon. The Sonic IDW is canon because Sonic mentions Tangle. He says, you know, I bet Tangle would love climbing around these trees. Now, for those of you that don't know Tangle, she's from IDW. She's a lemur. Basically, she has a big extendo tail, and she's a very fun, bubbly character. But it's a big deal that she's acknowledged in the game because because then it starts to cause a debate and a question in my mind. I'm like, okay, are we just sort of tying this together in a sense of you're gonna mention these things, or are you gonna incorporate these things? Because man, I really would love a world where, you know, Tangle joins the cast in a mainline game, or even Whisper. Whisper's a really cool character. If you have not read the comics, she's like this, you know, sort of sniper, little fox. You know, she's really cool, cute, adorable. Love her. We have the Sheep Lady. She's kind of a baddie, but she's like a cool leader type person. There's Surge, obviously, who's like gotten up in popularity, you know, as over the year. Well, I'd say over the past year now, as she's been like a different kind of Sonic. She's like a different variation of Sonic that was created. So there's a lot of just massive potential now that the comic universe is supposedly canon. Again, I don't really know if it's that the comic universe is canon or that like they're taking elements of it to put into the official Sonic games, you know, because until I hear them say like, oh man, the zombie virus was insane when that happened, I'm not really sure about that. Because even at the end of the game, you find out about Styx, right? Amy says, oh man, I can't wait to go see Styx at home or something. So that was a big deal. And again, like, does that mean Sonic Boom is canon, or does that mean they wanted to take an element from Sonic Boom being, you know, Styx, and bringing it into the fold? I mean, I guess technically they could have Sonic Boom canon. I don't think it would do anything wrong, but I think it's just a big deal in general that they are willing to be like, okay, even the things, you know, that weren't really successes for us, let's at least acknowledge those stories, you know, and incorporate the things I think we think mattered the most from them. Like I said, I think Styx, you know, of all things from Sonic Boom, is probably one of the better things. She's a funny character. She's got a cool design. She's different. So I don't really mind that in that case, you know. And also, if we look here, right, this is really interesting, right, for the second statement. We're working on making the universe and stories more meaningfully connected. So this is fire again, because it's that cross synergy that I think nowadays is becoming the big new thing, right? These companies and places want everything to connect, whether it's through games, shows, and all this stuff, because I think it's rewarding, right? I think, you know, obviously sometimes it can be a lot to keep up with, but in a lot of ways it's very rewarding. And also, we got official confirmation that, yeah, Ian Flynn is staying on board. He says it. This knowing smile is now in the wild. It's been an honor, privilege, and a lot of fun to be part of the team. I hope you've enjoyed what we've helped contribute thus far, and looking forward to other things we're helping bring to life. Again, that is fire, because to me, that is telling me right away, right, that like keeping Ian Flynn, genius move, you know, not a one-off thing. They needed him. And I think what's really cool is, I was talking about this with friends of like, I feel like, you know, in a lot of ways Frontier's story was a little limited, but it needed to be that way, right? Because I think they needed to have these character conversations and fixes and acknowledgements so that, you know, these characters can evolve for future arcs, you know, for future moves. I think stuff like that to me is important, and it's awesome. I'm glad they're doing it, so I'm really happy about that. Now, it's really interesting, and something I wonder about is another thing that, you know, some people are always iffy about, which is sort of like crossover stuff. Now, the reason I mentioned that is not necessarily because, you know, I want, or I'm like, oh, they're setting up for this. I don't really think that's the case. But, right, what I will say is, when you think about, you know, the two other big pieces of Sonic right now, which are, you know, the movie and Prime, right, they both have an element of multi-dimensions, right? With Sonic Prime, we know, you know, that they broke this, you know, shattered crystal thing, and obviously you're going to different universes. So different universes are very possible in the Sonic realm. But then obviously you talk about, you know, Sonic Movie 2, there's that scene where Eggman's like, it's not enough to conquer the Earth. You know, first I'll tackle the planet, the universe, then the multiverse. Obviously that could have been a joke, but obviously we also have the rings where Sonic can go to, you know, different areas in the world. So there's definitely like I mean, I'd say all of the universes have some sort of like universe transfer. I mean, we know Sonic from Sonic Rush, right? Like our Sonic Rush Adventure, right? Like they go into Blaze's world. So there's a lot of stuff in general in Sonic that has led to multi-dimension. Obviously, we have Silver. So I think while it's not necessarily stuff like they're trying to set up anything, I think there is at least some cohesion there where they want it to be like, hey, like even if maybe we're not in the same universe or wavelength, like it's still maybe the same world, you know, and maybe again one day something will come out of it and it'll be awesome. But I do think for now that's at least something to keep note of. One also thing I wanted to touch on here was Katie saying like, yeah, you may have seen examples of these changes in things like Tails Tubes, the Origins animations, the Knuckles Frontiers prologue, and the prologue comic, and even Frontier stuff. Like, yeah, it's actually a good point. Is that if you notice the last year, a lot of the story stuff they've been doing is like making stuff a bit more serious, you know, and taking things to like, you know, like the Tales Tube stuff has been mentioning a lot of lore info dumps, you know, even if it is, you know, in all silliness. In Origins, you get more like, hey, here's a confirmation of how this story starts and ends. You know, the Knuckles Frontiers prologue I thought was incredible, you know, incredible way to look at, you know, Knuckles and find out what he's doing on the island. Like, I think that's what's really cool about what they're doing here, is it no longer, like I said, feels like this is a stagnant world, but it feels like they are sort of, you know, building up and they've been trying to slowly remind us, you know, of things that have happened and what's to come, you know, like I said, with the Knuckles stuff, the Tails stuff, all this stuff going around. And I just think all this stuff ultimately is so much better for this universe, because I think, you know, for the last decade, right, we had a bunch of games that were, you know, and even I'd say in general for the Sonic series, right, like in general the series had a habit of being like game and then next one, like it's sort of a blank slate, like nothing happened. Like game, it's very rare that besides maybe Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, and even then Sonic 1 and Adventure 1 and 2 are like are named the same in a sense of like what's called, in a sense that they may be what's called are the same gameplay form, but they don't really acknowledge the past events too much. You know, I think that's what's going to be really cool now, is that we can potentially live in a time now where like past events have ramifications, and they're going to have more ramifications on the future. And like I said, even a game like Frontiers having a post-credit scene and building up to something like that stuff, to me is really cool, because that shows me you're building something, you're making a universe. They're doing it in the movies too, and I love that stuff, you know. And I know some people get overwhelmed nowadays, like, oh, not everything has to be universe, but like I like things being in universe because I think people like when things are official. And I know it sounds weird, I know it's like a little thing, but like I think things being officially acknowledged and done is cool, because then you can take elements from stuff, make them work together, and everything is lit. So guys, let me know what you all think. What do you think is the most fascinating part of this? What are you most excited for to see story wise, or see what they're gonna do? Let me know what you think. I love you. Thank y'all for watching. I'll see you all next time. Peace out.